You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome to the unknown, a place where ghosts, cryptids, and extraterrestrials are sought. This is where you'll find answers to questions about what lurks in the dark. This is Periscope Uncensored.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Periscope Uncensored here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I am Clarissa Vasquez, and my co-pilot this evening, as always, is the man formerly known as Jax, Mr. Joe White.
Hello, everybody.
And we have got a great show lined up for you tonight, folks. We're going to have Laura Brownlowe joining us after our first break. She is the lead investigator for the Elite Paranormal Society. And I know our producer, Miss Kat Hobson, met Elite in Gettysburg about a year ago. And so she said they are, great people, really, really nice people. And so we are excited to talk to Laura and learn more about her and learn more about the Elite Paranormal Society. And so that's going to be coming up here in about 20 minutes. But Joe, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you and our listeners about. Have you seen the new ghost video that's circulating the internet?
No, I haven't.
There is a video. It was released 2 days ago. It was released on March 26th, and it is out of Highland, Michigan. And a family in Highland, Michigan believes their house is haunted. And what's even more disturbing is that whatever is haunting the house is harming their little girl. They caught an image. Yeah, they caught an image on their nanny cam. And it's, something that's moving in front of the baby crib. And the couple thinks it's a ghost. And the mother says that the ghost allegedly scratched their daughter as well. No idea how old the little girl is. I'm going to say she's roughly a year old based on what I saw in the video footage, if not a little bit younger. And so they called in a team of paranormal investigators, and they think, that it may be somebody who lived in the house. And the house itself is an old barn. So there's a main floor and then there's a second floor. And supposedly someone who lived in the house committed suicide by jumping out the second story window. Now,
What?
Yeah, that in and of itself is incredibly difficult because, a second story fall, is enough to cause a lot of damage. But, you'd have to fall just right in order for that to kill you. Because one floor is 10 feet. And
Right.
so essentially you jump out the window, you're falling about 13 feet when you take into account, the height of the window. This guy, would have had to have, tried to swan dive out the window, and, have a spinal injury or a head injury in order for a short fall like that to, be fatal. Now, I know there's people that are going to say, well, people die from falling down the stairs all the time and, et cetera, et cetera. It just seems a little far-fetched, though, that such a short fall would be a successful method for suicide.
How long ago was this?
It doesn't say. The article does not say.
Well, that seems to me like it would be easy enough to just like maybe go to the town hall or, the registry of deeds and look that information up.
Right. Or, do a simple newspaper search or something, to see if, someone at that address, had passed away for other than natural causes. So it's interesting and, and a little perplexing all at the same time. Now, I've watched the video and it's, it's pretty clear, that something walks in front of the camera. Whether or not it's, digitally altered, I can't say. But there's a pretty clear image of what is, walking around in front of this crib. The footage does not show the entity attacking the baby. And when the local media interviewed the mother also claims to have had experiences where she feels like she's being choked. And the family says that, they're going to stay in the house until they can afford to move. Which is understandable because not everyone can afford to move or, just up and relocate. Moving is expensive. And so I would hope that, for the sake of their child, they get on that pretty quickly. But we will be posting the video and the article on our Facebook page, probably at the top of the hour. So if you want to see it for yourself, you can go to facebook.com/Periscope Uncensored and see that video and decide for yourself. What do you think it is? And, we want to know. Watch the video and then, tell us, do you think it's legit? Do you think it's a hoax? What do you think? And let us know because, if it's a fake, it's a really good fake. As most of our listeners know, I've been chasing things that go bump in the night for over 20 years now. And usually I can spot something that's been fabricated, really, really easily.
Yeah. Same here.
So, but with this, I can't tell. So, we want to know what our listeners think. So go to facebook.com/Periscope Uncensored. We'll have it up there probably in a little under an hour. And, let us know. Watch the video and tell us what you think. So, in other news, and I know you, Joe, we discussed this very, very briefly before the show started. There is a new Facebook group out there. I believe it just launched within the last 24 hours, calling themselves Paranormal University. And not to be confused with the other Paranormal University organization that is out there and has been for a while. But this is a discussion group that is calling themselves Paranormal University. And I'm thinking that the name of this group may be a little misleading. In the description of the group, it says it's a place to share and post photographic, video, audio, EVP, etc. evidence, receive information and education, support, and if possible, assistance to those experiencing the paranormal. And the first thought that crossed my mind when I read that description was, how does that constitute calling something a university? When you think university, you think, a place for extended education.
Correct.
So, I'm I'm interested to see, where this group goes. But I also want to know, why they chose to call it Paranormal University. And I think I'm going to contact the person that started the group on Facebook. It's not a like page or anything like that. It is a closed group. You have to be invited in. So sorry, folks, I can't give you the link to join because it is a closed group. But again, the name is just really throwing me because what they're describing does not constitute anything on the university level. I don't know. What do you think?
If you're gonna sit there and call it that, I mean, you should be able, to me, logically, it would be for people to go there to learn about the paranormal.
Right.
Not for people to be posting their own, separate videos and whatnot and EVPs.
Right. And so far, what's been posted on there is one person posted, I've got some EVPs. If I can find them, I'll share them. And other people are posting for their radio shows. So I'm going, this isn't living up to the expectations with a name like Paranormal University. But again, it appears that this page has only been up for about 24 hours, if that. I'm looking at the timeline right now, and yeah, it was created just about 24 hours ago. So I'm interested to see, where this goes and what happens with it. I may end up leaving the group, just because of nonsense. I mean, I've got zero tolerance for nonsense and stupidity. And, if this is, another one of those where, oh, I experienced this when I was 5, or, I took this photo, of my son, and, I believe it's my dead grandmother in the picture, and it's this giant dust orb in there, I'm out. I don't want any part of that.
I mean, I've seen pictures where people sit there, the daylight photos in a graveyard, and
right.
then and then it would be like, okay, you see this, like, it's almost like it's not a figure, so to speak, but it's like the whole, like, one certain area, there's a blob in it, and it's all fuzzy and whatnot, and it's like, yeah, there's a spirit right there. I'm like, how do you know that?
Right. And there's so many different explanations for, what can cause a fuzzy image or a light anomaly. I mean, it could be something as simple as slow shutter speed, or an unsteady hand when you're taking the picture.
Right.
It depends on the camera that you're using and the lighting conditions, and and again, the shutter speed. If you're using a higher tech camera, it's going to have a faster shutter speed, so some of that blurry is going to be eliminated. But if you're using a little cheap camera, or even an old 35 millimeter, or let's really date ourselves, a 110, then those images that have the blur in them are not going to be credible, because there are so many mechanical explanations for what could be causing that. So, and in the chat room, there was a comment about Paranormal University, asking if there were instructor level members. As far as I know, it's just everyday people. There are no instructors that I'm aware of. And then there was another comment that said there should be mentor members, such as with the group Supernatural and Paranormal University. So
Well,
I agree.
Where it's yes, and where it's so new,
Mm-hmm.
the two instructor members would be yourself and myself right now, as far as we know.
As far as we know, we don't know who all is part of this group, and again, it's only been around for about 24 hours, so we don't really know the full objective, although that should have been posted on the page from the jump. But there are no lessons or anything like that's in the works, as far as I know, because that was not announced. What was announced is what I shared with you a few minutes ago, is that it's a place where people can share and learn and get help if needed, et cetera, et cetera. And
You mean when you graduate, you don't get a paranormal degree?
apparently not. And I want to know what the tuition is. And what books, what's the required course material, for for this. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this, and if it's going to be a worthwhile thing to be a part of. Right now I'm thinking no, but you never know. There are so many paranormal discussion groups, out there on the interwebs right now.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are, just as I described, they are, groups saying, oh, I lived in this house when I was 5, and, this happened to me, when I was 5. And, any serious researcher is going to tell you that does me a lot of good now. I get that a lot when people find out what I do, that I do research spectral phenomena. Oh, you should check out the house I used to live in.
Why didn't you contact me then?
Right. If you don't live there now, that does me no good. I can't, just, go and knock on the door of John Doe's house and say, hey, Jane Q. Public said she used to live here and that the house is haunted. Can I come and check it out? No.
Well, isn't that what you're going to do in Liverpool?
I did threaten QVID. I did threaten to do that with the house I believe it was a loft where QVID's aunt used to live. I did threaten to do that, and he has since dubbed me the crazy American lady, because I really would have no problem going and knocking on that door and saying, hi, I'm from America, and a gentleman whose aunt used to live here had a ghostly experience. He and his family had ghostly experiences here. Have you had any experiences? And if so, can I check it out? That I would do. Just because, I'm not going to travel all the way across the pond, and not check something out. But on that note, it is time for our first break of the evening. But when we come back, we're going to have Laura Brownlowe from the Elite Paranormal Society with us. So stay tuned, folks. You are listening to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM-DB. WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son, what are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome! What?
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy, I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Clarissa Vasquez. Riding shotgun this evening is the man who makes the ghost holla for the spectral dollars. Mr. Menage Spook himself, Joe White.
Hello, everybody.
You know I had to throw in, the reference to the Menage Spook.
Yeah. You're never gonna let me down with that, are you?
No, I'm never gonna let that go. It's not everybody that gets a spectral lap dance viewed through an SLS camera. So we have got a great guest on the line tonight, folks. She is the lead investigator for the Elite Paranormal Society, and we're already enjoying talking to her because when we were at the break, we were talking about Sachs Bridge and Devil's Den over in Gettysburg. So please join us in welcoming Miss Laura Brownlowe to the show. Hi, Laura.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on tonight.
It is our pleasure. So for our listeners who are not familiar with you or Elite Paranormal Society, why don't we start with a little bit of background, what got you into this field and what brought you to Elite?
Well, we are a team based out of Maryland, because I know that's always one of the first questions. I had some paranormal experiences when I was younger. My grandparents had passed away, and we had converted their house into an apartment. No one was living there yet. So me and my friend would hang out over there because we like to sew. So we had a whole sewing room set up in the empty space because no one was using it at the time. And we would hear footsteps coming from the second floor when nobody was up there. We had a radio turn off on us. So there was always strange things going on. It only ever happened to me and my friend. So everyone's like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Okay. And so is that what brought you to Elite Paranormal? What made you decide you wanted to be an investigator? Uh-oh, did we lose Laura? Did we lose Joe?
No, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. It shows
Yeah, it
she's
does.
still there. That is odd, but that's live radio for you. So, okay. We've got.
Are you guys back?
There,
Sorry, I
we
lost
got
you.
her.
Not sure what happened.
So,
all right. So what did you guys hear before I lost you?
You were at your grandparents' house, hearing
Okay.
footsteps, and it was only happening to you and your friends, so you didn't think anything of it, really.
Yes, my parents don't believe in it. They never have, which is fine. So then eventually my boyfriend at the time moved into the apartment, who's now my husband, and he would get up in the morning real early to go to work, and I don't get up early, so I would go back to sleep. And something actually laid down in the bed with me, and I felt a breath on the back of my neck and felt like cold fingers, and it was weird, and I knew something wasn't right about it. It scared me. Wouldn't sleep over there for a little while. But then it just kind of also fueled my curiosity to want to know exactly what was happening. Like, what are these things? Like, what's here? And then it was also during the time when all the TV shows and everything started coming out, and I always had a fascination with the paranormal. So it was just a open door for me to really look into being a part of the field. And then a friend of mine was a member of Elite, and he would always tell me all of the stories, and I would beg him to take me with him. And the opportunity came up for me to come along, and I got to meet Robert Murphy, who's the founder of the team. Mm-hmm. And we just all automatically clicked together. So from there, it was just history. We had a great time that first night. He asked me to be part of the team by the time it was over, and we've been together now for like 4 years. So going strong, and I love it.
Wow, that's incredible. So give us a little bit of history about Elite Paranormal. Why did Robert choose to call the organization Elite Paranormal?
He chose Elite because he wanted something that would be what we wanted to be. For the team, he wanted to have the best of the best. And Elite just seemed to really speak to being the best. So that was how he picked Elite. And green is his favorite color, so that's why we choose green for our Elite Paranormal Society, like all of our wording and everything on our shirts. And he went through a few different team members. The team's been around for about 10 years now. Like I said, I've only been with them for Freddie Johnson, who's one of our team members, has been with him pretty much since the beginning. And then Gilson and Janie are two of the other longest running members. And we have quite a few other members. There's 11 of us on the team currently. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And how do you guys conduct your investigations? Do you rely heavily on equipment? Do you rely heavily on psychic mediums? Or do you try to apply the scientific method? How do you guys operate in investigation situations?
We are very much a team that uses equipment, but we do also have a medium on our team, Janie. But the equipment is our major thing because we want to be able to document. We also do a lot of live streaming investigations whenever possible, because then people can actually get on live and see us investigating, see us use all the equipment, see the evidence we're collecting in the moment, and also disprove things that aren't paranormal, because we want to be completely open and we want that connection with other people to know, hey, they're legitimate, they're a real team. So we definitely do rely on equipment and documentation, but we are open to people with abilities. We have other people on the team that do have abilities aside from just our medium. We have a couple of sensitives as well. And some of our amazing viewers that join us for our lives, they have helped us cross over spirits and have helped us get rid of negative entities and demonic situations that we've come into contact with.
Now, when you say negative entities and demonic, uh, what is your criteria for determining that something is demonic as opposed to just a malevolent or mean entity?
It just kind of depends. We have to do a lot of research and we speak with the client because we do mostly residential. We don't do a lot of the big name investigations. Like the only one we've really done is Moundsville. But we'll talk to the clients, we'll get all of their information, and we'll find out what they're experiencing to put together what it might be that we're coming into contact with. When you're dealing with people being pushed or them hearing scary voices or feeling uncomfortable, that can just be an angry spirit in the house, just the grumpy ghost, as we like to call it, that's trying to scare them and get their space back. But when you start to get into things that you are getting scratched or feeling depressed or tired and things are keeping you awake, and it might pick one particular family member to only target to wear you down, smells of sulfur, things like that. And normally it will hide in like the attics and in the basements where it's away from people and only come out when it wants to be at one particular person. We've done quite a few cases where it's been negative. We did one that was a demon worshiping cult, that the spirit was a negative energy, but it wasn't actually a demon. It was someone that had sold his soul to the devil. And we had documentation from research that there had been sacrificed cats in the house. There had been a witch that had lived there. There was a pentagram that was painted on the floor that the people had tried to remove, but they just painted over it. So it technically was still there. So there was a portal within the house that things were coming through. So there's a lot of research that goes into it, and there's a lot of questions that we have to ask to really deem what we are going into.
Okay. And then as far as client follow-up and follow through, are you guys strictly observe and report, or do you guys actually attempt to resolve, whether it's to get the entity or activity to cease or move or get them to peacefully coexist with the living, or are you guys strictly observe and report?
No, we do a little bit of everything. It comes back to what the client wants. Sometimes when they think that it's something evil or malevolent, we had one case where there was a child and she was seeing this scary burning man that would come into her room. And it actually turned out that it was a friend of her father that had passed away in a car accident. And he didn't know that he was showing himself that way to the little girl. Mm-hmm. So we talked to the spirit. We let the spirit know that he was scaring her because that's how she was seeing him. So in that case, then it stopped. You didn't have the little girl seeing this scary man anymore, mm-hmm. but them also being educated to know that it is a friend or a family member that's coming to visit them. They're not so much ones that want to get rid of it. So we kind of find out what the client's looking for. When it came to this one house that had the demon worshiping, we did a cleansing on the property. We closed the portals down with sage and salt and holy water and prayers, and with actually a lot of help from our live streaming viewers, because all of it was live streamed during this, to make this house go back to what a normal home should be. So in that case, we did do a removing and a cleansing. And then we've also crossed over spirits as well that wanted to move on from where they were by what we collected from our evidence. So it just depends on what the particular situation is.
Very interesting. Now, do you have cases where the clients, they just want it gone, and you go through, and you do your cleansing ritual and your removing ritual, and it just doesn't seem to work? The client is still complaining of affliction?
Fortunately, we have not had any cases where the clients wanted it removed that we were not able to remove it. We have had a few people that say that they want it removed, and we go in and we're documenting, we're collecting all the information, and they continually try to provoke and poke it, and they keep letting it back in. But at that point, there's not a lot of help you can do for them because they keep opening the Pandora's box and letting it back in, and you can only barricade so much when they keep bringing something back into their home.
Right. Right. You know, there are signs that say don't feed the bears for a reason.
Exactly.
So, now, what would you say then, given that you've been with Elite for 4 years now, what is the most compelling piece of evidence that you have collected or experienced during your tenure with Elite?
I think my favorite piece of evidence that I collected was at a client's home. We had gone in because they were experiencing paranormal activity, and they were afraid. They were getting screaming voices coming through their doorbell, because they have one of those fancy doorbells that records and like you can hear everything that's happening. There was this weird screaming. They were seeing shadows. They were hearing lots of different things, but most of it was outside of their house. They had called us in to find out what was happening. So we did our investigation, and when I was reviewing the evidence for it, we were in the backyard, myself and two of the other investigators, and we were just starting to walk out to our spot to investigate. And I get this voice on my recorder in a sing-song male voice saying, "I miss you, babes." And once we shared this with the client, she was like, "Oh my goodness, that's my husband." And the daughter that we were at her house, she confirmed, "Yeah, that's my dad's voice." And he called her mother babes. So he was letting them know that he missed them. He was there to visit them. So it was really awesome because it fell into line, and it made them feel good that it wasn't anything that they had to worry about. It was just family coming to visit them.
Right. Oh, yeah, well, and that's really cool, you know, because not only does it give you validation, but it also gives the client peace of mind.
Exactly.
You know, humans innately fear what they don't understand. And so to be able to give them, you know, a reference point, you know, that they can understand is really cool.
And that's always the biggest thing, too. It's always like the first question. I don't want you to think I'm crazy. I want to make sure that I'm not crazy. It was when they call us and they ask us, and we're like, we're the ones that sit in the dark and talk to nothing. We're the crazy ones.
Right. Yeah, we're the ones that go into these potentially, you know, dangerous situations and, you know, to try to help people. And I get that all the time, though. People call me up, "You're going to think I'm crazy." Oh, what a bet.
Yeah.
Betcha I'm not going to think you're crazy. And yeah, we had a client not too long ago, and we actually ended up turning her case down because we had other cases that took priority. We always put an extra emphasis on cases that involve children or that are malevolent. And it was an older woman under a lot of stress. You know, her husband was in end-stage cancer. Still at home, you know, but with hospice care. And she was complaining that there were ghost cats in her house. And, you know, and that, you know, they were jumping on her and rubbing up against her. And, you know, we tried to explain to her that, you know, animals will come to you during times of need, you know, even living animals, you know, and try to comfort you. And so maybe instead of wanting these ghost cats gone, you know, maybe you should embrace the fact that these spectral cats are trying to bring you comfort. And no, she didn't want any part of it. She wanted us to go in there and get rid of it. She didn't even want an investigation. She just wanted us to go in and get rid of them. And
yeah,
you know, we did have another case that was taking priority because it did involve children. And so we ended up having to tell her, look, as much as we would like to go in and deal with your ghost cats, we do have another case that's taking priority. Maybe you should call somebody else.
Yeah, when it involves children, that always comes in first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it involves children or is potentially harmful,
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take precedent. And, and again, this woman wanted us to go in there right now. And, she didn't understand the fact, that my investigators, there's 12 of us, we've been around for 15 years and, there's 12 of us, they have to work and feed their families. And so, it's not like we can just, hop in our cars and drive across the state, on a Wednesday night and get rid of your ghost cats for you.
Yeah, no, it doesn't always work that way.
And so do you have difficult clients like that or similar to that, where you finally just have to say, look, I'm sorry, maybe you should call somebody else?
Yeah, I think any team kind of gets those that they just they will keep calling you or messaging you and trying to get you to come and resolve their issue. But there's just nothing you can do at times for them because they keep going. And we have some that will message us and it's nothing. But again, it's that same thing that we run into. They keep poking at it and making it worse. Or it's weird stuff. I think we had something about cats. I don't remember exactly what it was that they were asking us to come and investigate. And we're like, what? You're 6 hours away. We can't come investigate your cat problem.
Right.
But yeah, unfortunately, there are some you have to turn away and some that are just very, very weird. We had one that was just messaging us because she wanted to message us that was saying her dad was the devil and all kinds of very interesting things. And we're like, oh, okay, sure.
Good to know.
Yeah.
On that note, it is time for our next break. But when we come back, we're going to have more with Laura Brownlowe. So stay tuned, folks. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Clarissa Vasquez, and joining me this evening is the man who puts the ooh in boo, Mr. Joe White.
Hey, how you doing?
We have got a great guest on the line this evening. We are joined by Miss Laura Brownlowe. She's a lead investigator for the Elite Paranormal Society out of Maryland. And Laura, before we went to break, we were talking about, some of our more difficult clients. Do you ever get requests from people that just want to be on television?
Oh, we had one of those that, they just wanted to be on television. And they had been on television once before. So then everything that they told her on television, she had to tell us. And she thought that she was going to get to be on television by having us come. And we're like, we're not on TV. That's not what we're in this for. And they just can't get it through their head that not every paranormal team can put them on the TV. I don't really understand it, but, some people.
Yeah, that is that tends to happen. A little less now that some of the shows are dwindling and the shows are kind of in a decline, I guess. But have you ever had clients that appear to be team shopping? They don't like what they get from one team, so they'll go to another team and then another team until they hear what they want to hear.
We've had one like that has tried to have us come because he's had multiple teams and apparently he had caused problems with a lot of the teams. So we never ended up taking on his case and going there because of all of the problems, because we reached out to the other teams and spoke with them about it, and they're like, no, you don't waste your time. So we have had people that do that because they're looking for a certain thing. So unfortunately.
Yeah, that tends to be an issue that the more legitimate teams face, especially the teams that are about, debunking the reported experiences. The team will go in and debunk the client's claims, and then the client isn't satisfied with that because they are convinced that the house is haunted, even though an investigation team has come in and said, this is what you're experiencing, this is what's causing it, it's not paranormal in nature. The client isn't satisfied, and so they'll find team after team until they finally get one, which is usually a newbie or fly-by-night team that goes in and says, oh yes, your house is haunted.
Yeah, there are definitely people that will do that. They'll keep searching for the answer that they want to hear. But I think that's part of human nature. People always try to search for the answer they want to hear. People don't like to be told that they're wrong.
Right. Most people, if you go in and say, number one, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
And, number two, your house is not haunted. Most people are relieved.
Yeah. Usually, they are, because they don't want it there. We had one client that they were having some weird things happen in their house, but then she also had the fear cage. So they had a super high EMF that ran through the whole house that was causing a lot of the nightmares and the feeling like you're being watched and all of those things. So we were able to disprove some of it with just that EMF field that was in her house so heavily.
Was it just old wiring, or were there high voltage power lines?
It was grounded to the copper piping. They grounded all the wiring to the copper, so then the water was carrying it through the entirety of the house. Like, it flatlined our meters. It was that bad.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, what meters do you guys use?
We mainly will use the millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
It has the multi-functions. My particular one has the shadow detector in it, has the flashlight, temperature, EMF detection, and the REM pod. Whenever we go in to do a client's home, we'll always do a baseline reading. So me and Stephanie, one of the other team members, when she's there with me, while they're setting up all the cameras and everything, we'll go through the whole house and do a baseline with the EMF detectors so we can see if there's any high EMF throughout the house.
Right.
So then we know if there is, and then we also know if there's any spikes that are unusual from just starting out of what the baselines are.
Right. Now, when you guys do your baselines, do you just do a general sweep or do you actually do a grid?
We will sweep an entire room. So we'll go all the way up and down all of the walls. We will check the floors. So it might not be an exact grid, but we cover the entirety of each room in the entire home to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Excellent. And do you also look into the geological composite of the land that the structure sits on?
We try to when we do the research. A lot of times it's a little bit harder to find that information, but we try to collect all of the research that we can on the locations that we go to. And when we do collect that information, normally it's just the researcher and our founder that will have it. So the rest of us aren't just focused on one particular thing. Like if they know that a child died in the house, we're not just focused on it being that child, that we don't try to communicate with anything else there. And then after we get to the halfway point, then they'll share the history information that they found with us.
Excellent. That's a really good idea.
We had one case that we even came in blind. The client told us nothing except for paranormal activity was happening. And then we were doing our live stream investigation because they gave us full permission to do so. And the people that were viewing the live stream were giving all of this information. And we didn't know if it was true or not because we hadn't been given anything. And the homeowner was watching and they're like, that's true and that's true. How do they know all this stuff? So then after that, when they were just floored, and then they told us some of the things that were going on in the house, and then what we were being told lined up real well. So it was really cool.
When you do your live streams, do you divulge the address?
No, we do not. That is the only thing that we will lie about. We won't tell them where we're actually at. We will give the places names, like we'll be like, oh, well, this is the Maple House and this one is the Well. And we may lie about even what state we are in so nobody can come and find the client's house because their confidentiality is the most important thing. We never share that information unless it is a place that once publicized, then we will share it for them to have the tourists or whatever come.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's great. And, I know I like to, on occasion, go into a location blind. Joe and I had the privilege of investigating together last August the S.K. Pierce Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts. And, everybody that was there on the investigation, they were researching the mansion and I had to keep telling people, don't tell me. I want to go in blind. I don't want to know about the reported activity. I don't want to know which rooms are the hottest. I don't want to know anything. I want to go in blind. And so Joe had the history of the location and he knew, what activity was supposedly happening where, et cetera, and I didn't. So it was two completely different experiences, at the same location on the same night. So
it's definitely a good way to do it.
Yeah, it was really cool, to have, to be there at the same location at the same time, conducting, the same techniques and the same practices, but having two completely different experiences because he had knowledge and I didn't. I went in blind. And so, for me, it made it that much more exciting.
And it also validates a lot more when you don't know, but then you collect something that matches up with the actual history.
Right. And, I did have one experience, I was using the SLS camera, which I'm not completely sold on yet, as most of our listeners know. I'm still working to debunk it and the technology because I think there's a lot of false positives
definitely
affiliated with that piece of equipment. But I did capture an entity downstairs in the basement and actually followed it with the camera, which anybody that's used an SLS knows that most of the time, if you move the camera, even a fraction of an inch in any direction, the anomaly detected will disappear. I captured the entity crawling on the ceiling, crawling across the ceiling, and I was actually able to track it with the camera. So I followed it with the camera as it moved across the ceiling, and come to find out, that there is actually a lot of activity reported in the room where I captured that. So for me, that was a little bit of validation.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm not so much sold on that because of all the reflective surfaces, and people are pointing at reflective surfaces being, oh, look at this. I'm like, yeah, it's yourself. Stop pointing at that. Its arms are up. It's you. And people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that it's not correct. So sometimes it's hard to get through to people.
Yeah, and it's the same with the thermal technology. If you're using the thermal imaging camera and you detect, an entity, you really need to look at the size and the shape of that, and does it resemble you or someone else in the room? Because your body heat can reflect. Also, if you've got glossy paint on a wall, it's going to reflect. And
behind the wall, are there hot water pipes behind the wall that you're seeing that you're thinking it's a person, and it's just the way it's coming through? So yeah, you definitely have to look into all of those things.
Right. And a lot of people, fail to acknowledge that aspect of it because they rely so heavily on the equipment and the technology. Oh, I'm getting an EMF reading, there must be a ghost present. Or, my SLS camera detected an anomaly, there must be a ghost present. So, that's a downside to some of the technology that, that is available to investigators these days. And, I will even go so far as to go old school. And instead of an EMF meter, I'll use a compass. And
yeah, I had one of those. And then I think a ghost stole it because I haven't been able to find it. They didn't like it very well, I guess. It just disappeared.
Well, let me tell you, there is nothing cooler than being in an investigation situation, and you're hearing things or seeing things, and then that compass just starts spinning.
I'm going to have to buy another one because that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, and again, I'm dating myself, that's like really old school. That's pre-EMF meter, using a compass.
Well, we like to use the dowsing rods, and that's a very old tool, but they're one of our favorite things to use. They work really great for our medium, I guess because of her energy, and we'll take it as far as to tell them, point this rod at a certain person and it'll move it, or spin it, real fast clockwise, or spin it real fast counterclockwise, and get them to do as we ask with the dowsing rods, which is always a really cool experience to watch, and it just gets people so floored.
Now, when you're using the dowsing rods, how do you eliminate the subconscious operator manipulation?
Well, for them, it's the way you hold them, because obviously it's going to be hard for people. You're obviously going to shake, so they're going to move a little bit. But we have even taken to blindfolding our medium and then having her go through and get them to move. They still moved, but they don't move as much when she is blindfolded because she can't see which direction we're telling it to go or any of those things. So we have tried to disprove it, and we've tried putting them on a stool to get them to spin. They never moved when we put them on an inanimate object. So it's still something that's interesting to hear other people's input as to how to debunk it. So we've tried the blindfold, and that seems to be the one thing that kind of slowed them down a little bit.
That's cool. Yeah, if you're blindfolding the person that's using the dowsing rods and say, okay, and they don't know where a certain person is standing, and you say, okay, point the dowsing rods at Bob, and then.
And when you're going to spin it this way, and you're pointing at which way you want it to spin, and they can't see what you're telling, so it's one way to make it harder for that person to move them themselves if they don't know where they're supposed to be moving them to.
Very cool. And on that note, it is time for our top of the hour break. But when we come back, we're going to have more with Laura Brownlowe. So stay tuned, folks. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM, and we will be right back after this message from NPR.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. President Donald Trump says he is reversing his administration's request to eliminate federal funding for the Special Olympics. More from NPR's Aisha Roscoe.
The president's budget called for an end to Education Department spending on Special Olympics programs. But after facing intense public criticism of the move, Trump has backtracked on the proposal.
I heard about it this morning. I have overridden my people. We're funding the Special Olympics.
Administration officials had argued the private charity did not need the federal money because it receives funding from many other sources. Even without Trump's decision, it was always unlikely that Congress would have approved the cuts because the Special Olympics has strong bipartisan support among lawmakers. Aisha Roscoe, NPR News, the White House.
President Trump's pick to lead the Interior Department made his case to lawmakers today. NPR's Nathan Rott reports the former energy lobbyist was grilled about conflicts of interest but will likely be confirmed.
As Acting Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke gave his opening statement to a Senate committee, someone in the seats behind him put on a green Swamp Thing mask. Democrats and environmentalists have been critical of Bernhardt for making policy decisions that they say favor former clients. Here's Oregon Senator Ron Wyden.
I think you are so conflicted that if you get confirmed, you're going to have one of two choices. One, you're going to have to disqualify yourself from so many matters. I don't know how you're going to spend your day.
Or he'd risk running afoul of ethical standards, Wyden says. Bernhardt defended himself, saying he would continue to protect the environment while pushing Trump's energy dominance agenda. Nathan Rott, NPR News.
New York has become the latest state to target OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma and the wealthy Sackler family. The state announcing it's amending a pending lawsuit against the drug company to include members of the controlling Sackler family who are worth billions as defendants as well. Letitia James is the New York Attorney General.
Today, my office filed the nation's most extensive lawsuit against the very companies and the family behind them, those who make, distribute, and have misled the American people about the true dangers of these drugs.
The state's announcement comes days after Purdue and the Sacklers agreed to pay $270 million to the state of Oklahoma. Amid some calls from Republican lawmakers that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff stepped down over comments he made about the Trump-Russia probe, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi today defended the congressman. She also heaped scorn on Attorney General William Barr, calling his brief response to the lengthy report by Special Counsel Robert Mueller condescending. Pelosi joined other lawmakers in calling for the release of the full report, which is said to run more than 300 pages. Major U.S. stock market indices posted modest gains. The Dow up 92 points today. The Nasdaq rose 25 points. This is NPR. Wells Fargo CEO Tim Sloan is stepping down, effective immediately. He'd taken over amid the scandal over fake accounts, identity fraud, and retaliation against workers for reporting that fraud. More from NPR's Yuki Noguchi.
Sloan was a 31-year veteran of the San Francisco Bank and took the helm in 2016 after the bank's pervasive fraud scheme started coming to light. Ultimately, the bank admitted to creating millions of unauthorized customer accounts and was fined $185 million by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. In December, it reached a settlement with all 50 state attorneys general for $575 million. Sloan came under fire for his role in the aggressive sales culture that led to the fraud, and Wells Fargo's press release announcing his departure indicated the board no longer felt he was right for the job. C. Alan Parker, the bank's general counsel, will serve as interim CEO. Yuki Noguchi, NPR News, Washington.
A last-ditch effort by makers of bump stocks, devices that make semi-automatic weapons fire more like fully automatic versions, has failed in the Supreme Court. The court today declining to stop the Trump administration from enforcing the ban and required destruction of the devices, which got underway this week. Gun rights groups had asked the court to keep the government from enforcing the ban, but Chief Justice John Roberts declined one request Tuesday. A second was declined without comment by the court today. The devices are now outlawed after their involvement in one of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history, the 2017 Las Vegas shooting in which a gunman killed 58 people. Crude oil futures prices closed down slightly at $59.30 a barrel in New York today. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I'm Clarissa Vasquez. In the co-pilot seat this evening, as always, is the apple in my dumplings, Mr. Joe White.
How you doing?
And folks, we're having a great time talking to Laura Brownlowe. She's the lead investigator for the Elite Paranormal Society out of Maryland. And if you're listening via one of our internet affiliates, I encourage you to come on over to WBHM-DB.com, where you can join our fully interactive chat room and talk with like-minded and sometimes not so like-minded individuals. You never know what's going to be said in chat, but we do want to give a shout out to those that are in chat and those that have been in chat this evening. We want to thank you for joining us, and we want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in, regardless of how you're listening to us. We want to thank you for joining us. And so, Laura, during the break, we were talking about, some of our really, cool and interesting experiences, people being tossed and or knocked over, or in Joe's case, knocked down a flight of stairs. Have you guys had anything, really super cool and exciting happen like that over at Elite?
Personally, to myself, no. I've gotten sick a couple of times that I've had to remove myself from the particular room. We did have a case where we had a guest with us, and we call it jumped, that she was with us and she got jumped because she became temporarily possessed for a moment and did not have control of her faculties whatsoever and wanted to beat up our lead investigator, Rob, at the time. So we did have that happen. That was pretty crazy. We had to get her out of the attic and out of the house. And then once we got her out, she didn't remember any of it. So that was probably one of our craziest experiences.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, and it was out of nowhere. Like, we're trying to cross over Spirit, and I guess it got mad, and it just came all the way across the attic. She said she was sitting next to me. She told us that she saw something dark. It rushed across, ran past me, and then just ran into her. And she said it was like having sharp daggers inside of her head, and she doesn't remember anything that she said. Rob got up real quick once he realized, because Jeremy was on the camera and he could see it, because we're all sitting in the pitch dark. We can't see. Rob gets up and comes over to her once he realized what's happening. It's like starts to put holy water on her and say a prayer. And she like swats his hands away because she had curled up into a ball, but then she like just straightens up, swats his hands away. It's like, not even. And he's like, what? And then realized that it wasn't actually her reaction, because then she rolled back up into a ball, and he's still like trying to get her good, and finally gets her to stand up, and you can just see all like the muscles in her arms and all the veins were popping out of her arms, like she was going to fight. It took 3 people to get her out of that attic and out of that house. So it was definitely an interesting experience.
Would you say that that's the most frightening experience you've had during your time with Elite?
Probably, yeah. We've had other things of people being scratched, being bitten. Jamie, our medium, passed out at one of the locations because whatever was there was trying to split everybody up and get people singled out. And she just totally fainted, and 2 of the other investigators caught her before she hit the floor. But yeah, those some of the crazy things. Jamie, poor Jamie, being a medium, I don't know why people will say that they're the ones that are supposed to protect us, and we have to protect them because they're the ones that can see and hear more of it. She's been hit, she's been bitten, scratched, passed out, strangled a couple of times. Like, so many things happen to that poor woman, and she still goes for it every time. She's a trooper.
Wow.
See, when we were at S.K. Pierce Mansion, after I went down the stairs, a week later, there was a bruise on my right forearm that looked very similar to like a handprint. You could see the fingers.
Oh, wow.
On the forearm of my right arm. Now, when I went down the stairs, I went down sideways, and I went down on my left side. I went down the first step, and then I was just gone. My feet never hit any of those stairs on the way down. But one of the claims in there was that there were at least 2 children that died in the house. And inside the bruise, of what appears to be the handprint, it looked like a child bite mark.
Oh, wow.
And I took pictures of that, and I sent them to Clarissa. And Clarissa, what did you think of those pictures?
I thought it was crazy. And what I thought was crazy about it was the fact that it took so long for that to appear if it was connected to your fall at the mansion.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
I mean, the bruises and that what appears to be the bite mark didn't show up until like almost a week later.
Huh. Did you have any other issues? Like, did it follow you home or anything, or did it just show up a week later?
It just showed up a week later.
That's definitely interesting. Never heard of that one before.
Yeah, and when he fell down the stairs, I mean, he literally went down a flight of stairs, and actually caused some damage to the wall when he landed.
Yeah, my back was imprinted in that wall.
Luckily, they were in the process of renovating the mansion, and so they're like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. We're getting ready to repair this anyway." Which was fortunate. But I
is that location known for that type of activity?
I think that there was one other person that went down the stairs there too. I think it was a female investigator that went down the stairs a few years ago.
Yeah. I think I remember hearing something about that afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah.
But we were the only two that went down the flight of stairs, as far as I know. But that place was very interesting.
Sounds like it.
Because on the second floor, we were on the third floor. We were coming down because Clarissa and I, Clarissa was there. It was a joint investigation. She had her team there, and I had my team there when I was a part of it. And what happened was we were on the third floor. We were coming down, and from the third floor to the second floor on the stairwell, we're still at the top of the stairs. And I have the SLS camera in my hand, and for some reason, I just happened to catch a glance of something, and I panned back, and there were two stick figures on the inside of the stairwell, like inside the railing, and there were small figures.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking to myself, these must be the children. And using the SLS camera for the first time, we didn't know how to record with it, so nothing was being recorded at that time. But we ended up, that was in August.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up, I ended up putting out my left hand to the figure that was on the left side, and I asked it to put its right hand in my hand, and it did. And then I stuck my right hand out to the stick figure on the right side. I asked it to put its left hand in my right hand, and it did.
Oh, wow.
And then Clarissa came up from the bottom. She was down at Tech. She grabbed her SLS camera because we radioed her in to tell them that, what was going on. So she came up to confirm it. At the angle that she was at, she was unable to confirm it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was a revisit with the team that I was on. I think that was October. And I went up from the second floor, going back up to the third floor to see if I could catch them again. This time I had it recorded, and I caught them again.
That's awesome.
I did the same thing all over again. I stuck my left hand out with the stick figure and put its hand in my hand, and I did the same thing with the figure on the right. Stuck its left hand in my right hand. I got that all recorded.
That's so cool. Yeah, whenever it's children's spirits, it's always a completely different thing. We always try to, sit down on the floor and like get down to their level to make them comfortable because we're so much bigger than they are being adults. We
Right.
did a place called the Temple. It was a Masonic temple here. It was like our local place that we were always at. And there was the spirit of a little girl there named Sarah. And research, we had found out that she had fallen down the steps, and that was how she had died. And I had brought a guest with me that was my best friend, and she had never done ghost hunting or anything. And she's like, I want to come. We're like, okay, yeah, you can come along. This place is cool. And we were up there. It was me, her, and her husband. I don't think anyone else was with us. And we're both sitting there on the floor trying to talk to the little girl. And my friend just like gets like overwhelmingly sad and starts crying. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, I don't know. I just feel so sad. And then I just get totally struck with it. And we're both just like sitting there crying because this little girl was super sad and she was pushing her feelings off on us. And like you could feel like her like touch your hand, and then she was sitting in my friend's lap. And it's just such a crazy feeling when you can feel their emotions and they physically are like there and you know that they're there. But after that, I had a connection with her, and before the building was sold, we actually went in and I helped her with some other people on our live feed to cross her over and move her on to where she needed to be, and that was a great feeling.
That's awesome. Now, we've only got a couple of minutes before our next break. So, based on what you've told us so far, I'm guessing that you guys don't advocate the use of provocation or being negative toward the entities that you are communicating with. Is that correct?
No, we never try to provoke because you don't want to set something off and then leave your client there to deal with it. Like, you definitely never want to do that. The only time that we will get a little more stern with a spirit is if we're trying to remove them from the house, and that's usually when we're coming in contact with a negative entity that will be a little bit more pushy with them and be like, hey, you got to go, and then we'll go through all of the steps to remove them. But otherwise, no, when it is a regular spirit, we do not provoke.
So then how do you guys react to investigators and organizations that see the use of provocation on television and believe that that's an acceptable method for interaction?
It is something that we are very clear about on all of our live feeds or whenever we're doing our Paratalks each week. When that subject comes up, we tell them that it's not something that we do. It's not something that we feel that other people should do, but they can do what they want. We can't tell them what to do. But if they are out with us and they're a guest with us and they start to do it, we will remove them from the location. We're not going to let something like that happen. And again, we try to help educate people because we don't want new teams that have started seeing what they do on TV and going out and making a situation in a client's house worse. Like, that's the worst thing. Like, you go and you make it mad and then you leave them there with their little 3-year-old kid or 2-year-old or whatever it is to deal with the mess that you've now made worse. So It's definitely something that we don't do, and we always try to tell others not to do, or we'll remove them if they do try to do it on something they're along with us on.
Right. Do not emulate what you see the guy in the too tight t-shirt doing on television.
Exactly.
And on that note, it is time for our next break. But when we come back, we'll have our final segment with Laura. So stay tuned, folks. You are listening to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome! What?
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I am Clarissa Vasquez, and joining me at the helm this evening is the cream in my Oreo cookie, Mr. Joe White.
How you doing, everybody?
Are you liking the new intros?
The cream in your Oreo cookie. Okay.
Well, for weeks I've been calling you the sprinkles on my donut.
True.
So, with the help of former Periscope guest Aubrey Baldwin, the other day we came up with some new intros for you.
Oh, did you now?
Uh-huh. Well, after all, she is the one that dubbed your ethereal lap dance the Menage a Spook. So, got to give credit where credit is due. Aubrey helped me come up with a lot of these new intros for you.
Thanks, Aubrey. You're helping her.
She's encouraging me.
Exactly.
So we're having a great time tonight with our guest, Miss Laura Brownlowe from the Elite Paranormal Society out of Maryland. Now, where in Maryland is Elite located?
We are in Keedysville, Maryland. So anybody that is familiar with the Battle of Antietam, we are like 10 minutes from that battlefield.
Okay. And Joe, just so you know, QVid is in the chat room, and he said he wished he had a donut that he could be the sprinkles on. So just thought I would share that. That is disturbing.
That's disturbing, Q.
That is a little disturbing, especially since he's getting married in September. So his bride-to-be may be a little put off by the fact that she's not his donut.
Wow.
Okay, so Laura, you guys are about 10 minutes away from the site of the Battle of Antietam, which is really cool. I have actually heard that location is actually more haunted than the Gettysburg battlefields.
I don't know if it's more so. I mean, how can you really count the ghosts? But there definitely are a lot of stories, and we've been there often. There's a cemetery that backs right up to the battlefield that we've been to a few times. And one of the times that we were there, we could actually smell the black powder, which was real crazy because there was no reason you should have been able to smell it. And we've gotten a lot of different EVPs and experiences there. It's harder to go and investigate the battlefield because they close, and most of the time you want to do it at night when there's not a bunch of people there. But we've definitely been out to the location, and there's things happening there.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people that have investigated both locations. Gettysburg is so popular, and everything. But I've heard people say, if you want a really good shot at capturing data that you can use, and having personal experiences, go to Antietam.
Yeah, it was a very bloody. There was a lot of deaths there, so there's definitely a lot of spirits there. Burnside Bridge is part of that, and there was our teammates, I believe it was Rob and Gilson that time, were out there, and they got a really awesome EVP of soldiers saying that it was the price of freedom. So it was a really cool, very clear one that we play quite often that they got there on Burnside Bridge.
Wow.
Any cannon fire as well?
I don't know if they have any recordings of that. I would have to ask them because they've done that one a lot more before I was part of the team. So I'm not sure. But I think that there is something that they had. It's either a gunshot or a cannon fire that they do have a recording of. I just don't remember which one.
Now the EVP of the soldiers talking, is that posted anywhere?
It should be posted on our Facebook page. I know we shared it around the 4th of July. So if you want to check out our Facebook at Elite Para Sock, you can jump on there, and we share as much of our evidence as we can for people to check out the EVPs or to watch the live streams or any of that stuff on there.
Awesome.
And do you guys have a physical website where people can go and look at the data you've collected?
We are still working on the website, so we do not have one up currently, but we do have a YouTube as well, so you can look us up on YouTube at Elite Paranormal Society.
Very cool. And your live streams, are those
are on Facebook.
On YouTube? Those are on Facebook.
They're all on Facebook. Yep, we leave everything up there unedited for anybody to view and check out.
Very cool. So for people that are in your neck of the woods and they're interested in maybe learning how to be an investigator, or maybe they're having an issue that they'd like you guys to come and check out, is Facebook the best way to reach you guys, or is there another preferred method?
Facebook is the best way to reach us. They can private message us. Also on our Facebook page, there is a phone number if they want to reach out. That is the direct phone number to Robert Murphy, who is the founder of our team, and he manages all of our cases. So they can feel free to reach out to that. The phone number is 240-626-7408.
Excellent. And are you guys taking on new members right now?
Currently, we are not taking on any new members, but we're always happy to take on any new cases or people that are just interested in checking out the paranormal. We do have some people that we will take out and give them a rundown of how to use the equipment and things like that, but they can reach out to us and ask us those questions as well.
Excellent. And I had another question and it just slipped my mind. That's how exhausted I am. Yep, it's gone. Poof. I hate it when that happens. Let's see, we were talking about website, Facebook, new members, data collected. Yep, nope, it's gone. I was distracted by the chat room, but that happens. So the EVPs that you guys have captured, do you post for the public, the really, really faint ones, or do you only post, what we would consider to be Class A, the ones that are really clear and really compelling?
We try to post as much as we can. We are pretty good at being able to amplify them to make them easier to hear so people can hear them. The really faint ones, it's hard for people to know what's being said, so we don't post as many of those. But we try to always share what people can actually understand what's being said.
Very cool. And do you post what you believe is being said, or do you leave it up for the listener's interpretation?
We'll usually have it looped like 3 times, and for the first couple of times it will just play and not say what it says, but then once you get to the 3rd time, we'll have listed what we believe that it says.
Okay. Very cool. Now, when you guys are doing your audio portion of investigating, do you leave it strictly, to EVP collection, or do you utilize a spirit box or devices like that, like a Shack Hack or the SP, whatever that new one is that I really am not a fan of?
We do use the spirit box. We prefer the SB7.
There you go.
The SB11, one of our teammates does have the SB11, but there's so much going on with it. It's really hard to understand. Sometimes the SB7's a pain in the butt to understand.
Right.
But we do use the spirit box. We do have a couple of Shack Hacks. We don't use them real often. Mm-hmm. And we do use, there's one particular app that we use that a good friend of ours, Philip, and Jonathan Garraway both put together, called the ITC Collaboration Pro app, that is all phonetic, so there are no actual words in it, and it's multiple different languages. So we do use that app that they can manipulate and make the words out of. The best thing for us with the Spirit Box is we can record and we can get the stuff in the moment. You can hear it, but we also are able to go back and review it, and we use Audacity, and we can remove a lot of the white noise and amplify what we're hearing to be able to hear the things that are being said better, because a lot of times you can't hear it through the white noise, or there's more underneath. So once you filter that out, you actually have a lot more evidence that you don't realize that you have. But we always keep the original raw clips so we can show people, hey, this is originally what it was. We didn't change the words. We just took out some of the noise so you can hear it more clearly.
Right. Now, you mentioned an app, and that the one you mentioned is not one I'm familiar with. I am not an advocate of apps at all, as most of our listeners are already aware of. But you said
this is the only one that we use.
You said this one is only a phonetic app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know the 2 people that designed it are a couple of our amazing followers that we have. And it is only available right now for Android devices. So I have it on my phone because I have Android, and I also have it on the tablet that we can use. But it is all phonetics, so there are no words programmed in it, which is one of our biggest problems with apps, because they'll program the same word in it more times instead of just once for each word. But being able to just have the phonetics where they can take the words and put together sentences. We've had full first names and last names come through. I've had it say my name and be like, Laura, it's good to see you. And I'm like, well, that's weird, but that's pretty awesome. So, yeah, being able to use that app and have them put the words together. We've had stuff come through in other languages since it has 13 different languages programmed in it. So we've had to reach out to some other people to be like, hey, we know this is in another language. What is it saying? And we've been able to get them to help collaborate with us to be like, oh, well, that is German and this is what it's saying. Going back to the homeowners, they're like, oh, yeah, this was, a big German immigrant area. And that makes sense that there would be German voices coming through. So it's the only app that we use, but we love it.
I may have to look into that. We have a question from the chat room coming from QVid. He wants to know what your favorite piece of equipment is and what would you like to have that you don't have?
My favorite piece of equipment would have to be the digital recorder, because that's where you're going to get your most evidence from. We usually use the Sony recorders. That one is probably the best one for us, because I love to get EVPs. Something that I would love to have that I don't have. That's a really good question. I would be very interested to have a thermal imaging camera. I think that would be pretty cool to see what you can get with that, because we don't have one of those. So I would say thermal imager.
Very cool. Thanks for the question, Cuvid. And so, Laura, we've only got about 8 minutes left with you before we go to our final break of the evening. What do you want our listeners to take away from your time with us tonight? What is there something, you feel is really important for our listeners to know?
I would just like for them to know that as part of Elite Paranormal Society, we are very much a team that is about our integrity. We're very open. We're very honest. We have some amazing listeners. I see a lot of them in the chat right now. They're fantastic, and we love them. And we enjoy being interactive with people, and doing our live streams is one of our favorite things to do, to be able to share that with people and show that we are exactly what we say that we are. And we try to share really great evidence that is very pure and very true. And we want to help people. That's why we don't do a lot of the big fancy places that everybody else goes to that are over investigated. We do a lot more client investigations, because our goal is to help people and educate people about the paranormal. And we all have an extreme passion for it. And I think it shows in the evidence and the way that we portray ourselves as a team.
I think that's really cool. And I like that you've used the word integrity a few times. And, a lot of people and organizations, they like to use that word integrity. But you don't see it as often as you hear it.
Exactly. And we're not in it to become famous. We're not in it to make money. Everybody always like, oh, I'm going to be on TV. We've had numerous offers to do it, and we're like, we're not going to do anything scripted. Like, that's not why we're in this. We're in this to educate and to help people, and to be able to network with people, like being at the Bash and getting to meet Kat and some of the other awesome people that are up there. So it's great to be able to meet like-minded people that also are all about para-unity, because that's one of the biggest things for us, is we want to be respectful of what other people's thoughts are on the paranormal, because everyone looks at it differently. But if you do have a different opinion, be honest about it, but be respectful about it.
Yeah, definitely. And, that's
the only way teams can learn from each other, is doing it that way.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And, Laura, we want to thank you so much for being such a great guest on the show tonight. And one more time, how can people find you guys on Facebook?
We are on Facebook under Elite Parasoc, so ELITE PARASOC. That is our fan page. You can reach out to us on there. You can private message us from there. If you do want to reach out and give us a call, you can call Robert Murphy, who is our founder. His phone number is also on our Facebook page, and it is 240-626-7480.
Awesome. And we do have one final question in the chat room. This was also coming from Cuvid. He wants to know what you think orbs are. Are they dust, bugs, or something more?
99% of the time, they are dust and bugs. But there are legitimate orbs. I've seen some with my naked eye that were black, so that was a really weird thing. But you can catch them. But a lot of people want to say everything is orbs, so you have to really look at the things that are going to emit their own light to know that it's actually an orb and it's not catching the camera light. That's one of the biggest ways to tell the difference between your paranormal investigators, is the ones that call everything an orb.
Right.
But yeah, most of the time it is dust or bugs. You have to really, really look into it to make sure that it is legitimately an orb. And most of the time, the real ones aren't circles.
Right. Absolutely. And we do have a question from the chat room again. And I'm just going to clarify this real quick because we're running out of time. Your YouTube channel is under Elite Paranormal Society. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the YouTube channel is that that's not a rebroadcast of your live streams. That's more of the data that you guys have collected, right?
Yeah, I believe some of our live streams have been shared over to our YouTube as well, but all of our live is done on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, again, Laura, we want to thank you for being such a great guest on the show. We wish you guys the best of luck with your research and with all of the neat and exciting things you guys have coming up in the future. Best of luck to you. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you guys for having me. I very much appreciate it. It was a great time.
And on that note, folks, it is time for our final break of the evening. But when we come back, more with Joe and I. So stay tuned. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best.
Fun. Yes, thank you guys. That was
paranormal.
a great conversation.
I hope I didn't
radio.
work too hard.
No, you're good. Yay.
Okay, how much time do we have, ma'am? 1:48. Okay. Yeah, Laura, keep in touch. Let us know what you guys are doing, and maybe we'll have you guys back on the show at some point in the future.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a few other teammates to talk to.
Yeah.
We do. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Well, hopefully we get to see you again at the back this year.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama. I am Clarissa Vasquez, and riding shotgun this evening, as always, is the man whose voice is smoother than ice cream, Mr. Joe White.
Hello.
We don't have the girls in the chat room tonight, so I don't know if anybody is swooning when you talk.
Cupid.
Oh, that's right. Cupid swoons when you talk.
What a fabulous show tonight, huh?
Yeah.
That was amazing. And it's they're doing things the right way. They're doing things the proper way. And it's just, you don't see, and just, you don't see that too often. I mean, you do see it often, but it's not, again, going back to other teams that do things like the wrong way. Like, for instance, like the teams you see on TV.
Yeah, the teams that advocate provocation, or the teams that swear that, dust orbs are evidence of paranormal activity, and it's really sad because the general public is of the frame of mind that that's acceptable practices for interacting with potentially paranormal entities.
Correct. And they think that, yeah, exactly. I was just going to say the same thing that you did, in other words.
I beat you to it.
Yeah, you did.
So I haven't checked out our Facebook page to see if anybody has commented yet on the video that we shared of the activity that we discussed at the beginning of the show. I'm scrolling down now to see if it's, to see if there's any comments on it. Again, we talked about, this footage that was captured on a nanny cam of a possible ghost walking by the child's playpen. And looking at it, we don't have any comments on it yet. So folks, go over to facebook.com/Periscope Uncensored and take a look at it. Tell us what you think. We want to know. And, decide for yourself because like I mentioned earlier in the show, if it's a fake, it's a really good fake. I'm a little stumped by it because I'm not able to immediately debunk what is being seen on the screen.
Is this a link to the is the video linked to the article?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can read the article and listen to the news report and everything, and it shows the video footage of what they believe to be a ghostly entity walking past the child's crib. It does not depict the spirit attacking the child or anything of that nature. It's just walking past the crib, and it looks to be legit. Like I said, if it's a fake, it's a really good fake.
This isn't the there's another video out there that a baby that maybe like 8 months old, somewhere around in there, and it was actually standing up on the railing of the crib. It's not that video, is it?
No, I have not seen
Okay.
that video. No, this is just an entity walking past the child's playpen, and you can see the child in the playpen. And it's just walking past. So,
If I can find that other video, I'll send you a link to it. But that's an interesting video too,
yeah, I'd like to take a look at that one too.
because that was also caught on an nanny cam, and the baby just all of a sudden just like was on top of the railing of the crib, and it wasn't wobbling. It was standing straight up and down. I don't know.
That's
I watched it several times, and it's like I can't get my head around it. And like with this video that you're talking about, it's like if that's a fake, it's a really good fake. So
Yeah, and people are able to do a lot of things with digital technology these days, and they're able to manipulate a lot more. And, which is really unfortunate for those that are trying to present legitimate data to the public, because it is becoming easier and easier to fabricate and manipulate footage captured. It started with photos, people using Photoshop, and now people are, and people are manipulating videos. It's gone beyond, fishing line, to where they're actually able to use video imaging software, and put things in videos and stuff like that. It's just becoming more and more easy to fake it. And it's really, really sad.
Yeah, and it makes it that much harder for true investigators to debunk such videos or pictures.
Well, and it makes it more difficult for legitimate researchers to present credible data.
True.
True. But we want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight to listen to Periscope, and we want to thank Laura Brownlowe and Elite Paranormal Society for being such a great guest this evening. Coming up next week, we're going to have Rick Peterson, and he was a guest on the show about 6 years ago. We haven't talked to him for a long time, so it's going to be really cool to see what's going on with him. He is the founder of Spirits BC. They're a paranormal investigation team out of British Columbia. And, Rick is a really great guy, really knowledgeable. The guy likes to talk, let me tell you. And so we're really excited to have him on the show. And he'll be joining us next week, so be sure to tune in to Periscope Uncensored here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. And, my copy of Reverend Sean Whittington's book arrived today.
Yay!
God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry. It arrived today. And I'll read you the back cover. It says, this book contains prayers, instructions for house blessings, and a section of photographs. Nothing is more frightening than the truth. Intense reading about real exorcisms and extreme paranormal cases. Descended from a long line of spiritual warriors, Reverend Sean P. Whittington shares his background, knowledge, and most chilling and life-changing moments. An ordained exorcist and deliverance minister, Sean and his wife Sharon, also a minister, have over 40 years of experience with ghosts and demons. They reside in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I am excited to read this. They're calling it a supernatural and spiritual autobiography.
And if I'm not mistaken, Reverend Sean Whittington is going to be on the show in May, correct?
Yes. Yeah, the first Thursday in May. I think it's the 2nd. He's going to be a guest on the show. And we're going to be talking about the book. So I've got a month to read this book. And if this is something that interests you folks, you can find it on Amazon. The title is God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry by Reverend Sean Patrick Whittington. So order your copies.
That's going to be an interesting show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been a guest on his show a couple of times. He
Yes.
has his own show on a different network. And the name of his show escapes me right now. Oh, Vegas Paranormal is what it's called. And yeah, I've been a guest on his show a couple of times. And he's another one that really likes to talk. So that's going to be a good show. And I'm excited to talk to him about this book. I'm excited to read the book to see if I need to shift gears or if I can keep going with my own biblical literary project that I've been working on for the last 8 years. So
you know what? I think you should keep going with it anyways, regardless, because it's your opinion. It's what you think, and that's what you wrote down on paper.
well, it's more than just my opinion with as far as my manuscript goes. My manuscript is the facts as they are written in the Bible, in the current rendition of the Holy Bible, both the pros and the cons for the existence of ghostly phenomena and the interaction with ghostly phenomena and whether or not there are spiritual ramifications for that interaction. You get a lot of people that say, interacting with spirits, is dancing with the devil. You're going to go to hell. And actually, that's not the case. If you read the Bible and read the scripture, not necessarily the case. So I could quote scripture right now, but I'm not going to because we are almost out of time.
Save that for another show.
We'll save that for another show. Anybody that is really interested in it, though, can find a lot of my interviews on other radio shows. I tend to get a little preachy. Because I, too, am an ordained minister. I'm a seminary-educated ordained minister. So I can quote the scripture and explain, what is being said and what is being taught, a little better than, some of the fly-by-night, quote-unquote ministers, who went on to, the internet and, put their name in a database and got a certificate in the mail saying you're now a minister. But... So having the Rev on the show it's going to be good. We're looking forward to that coming up in May. Awesome. So we've got a keyboard warrior going on. I hear somebody like frantically typing. That is so funny. Usually it's me that's doing all the frantic typing. Yeah, it's our producer Kat. We know what she's up to. And on that note, folks, we have come to the end of our show, but we want to encourage everyone to tune in next week when we're going to have Rick Peterson on from Spirits BC. So be sure to tune in live next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. And so for myself, Joe, Kat, the WBHM family of hosts, we want to wish you all a very, very happy evening, and may all of your ghosts be friendly.
Stay spooky, everyone. Have a good night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.